What's the current state of creativity in business? Not just in advertising, but generally in business.
I think it's probably more positive than people might think. I've been involved in Cannes Lions for 20 years now, and at Cannes Lions, attending the festival now, we have many, many, many thousands of marketers. And the only reason they're there is to learn about creativity, because we are a festival of creativity. So for me, that's very, very encouraging. But the issue is trying to persuade the boardroom and the chief executives, right? Because they're the ones with the capital to allocate. What marketers are saying to them is, please allocate this to marketing and please allocate this to creative marketing. So what we've been doing at the festival for the last 10 years or so is trying to gather as much data as we can to prove that the most creative campaigns are also the most effective campaigns.
Hello, welcome to a podcast that accompanies the 12th edition of Imagination Day. The podcast is being produced by Papaya Films, and my name is Wojtek Kowalik. I'm the founder and creative director of Playground Warsaw, and I'm here to talk with Mr. Philip Thomas, the chairman of Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity. Welcome to Warsaw, Philip. Nice to meet you here.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you.
So I have just watched your keynote, which is absolutely brilliant, and I think we need more solid presentations like that prove the important role of creativity in business. And I'm here to ask you a few questions regarding the state of the creativity in our business, in business in general. And the first would be, what's the current state of creativity in business? Not just in advertising, but generally in business.
I think it's probably more positive than people might think. And the reason I say that is because I've watched this over time. I've been involved in Cannes Lions for 20 years now. And at Cannes Lions, attending the festival now, we have many, many, many thousands of marketers. And the only reason they're there is to learn about creativity, because we are a festival of creativity. So for me, that's very, very encouraging. I think there will always be this tension, though, because the marketers, I think, and many, many marketers do believe in the power of creativity. But the issue is trying to persuade the boardroom and the chief executives, right? Because they're the ones with the capital to allocate. And they have many mouths to feed. They've got technology, they've got people, they've got real estate, they've got offices to pay for, they've got all these things to pay for. And what marketers are saying to them is, please allocate this to marketing and please allocate this to creative marketing. So what we've been doing at the festival for the last 10 years or so is trying to gather as much data as we can to prove that the most creative campaigns are also the most effective campaigns. And I think this is starting to work. There will always be challenges on budgets. There will always be people who don't believe it. So it's a constant. It will never be perfect. But right now, I think the state of creativity is quite healthy.
Great answer. I think creativity, the very nature of creativity is shaking status quo.
Yeah.
That's why it will never be 100% tolerated everywhere and by everyone, but definitely promoting that and showing people the numbers that really prove that creativity multiplies results. Is a mission worth having, worth doing.
Yeah.
My second question would be about the ever-changing world, of technology, creativity, media, and business. You see all the time new opportunities, new technologies emerges, but with them, new dangers emerge. Do you see any new dangers that our industry, specifically advertising industry, but maybe also in general creative industries, are facing?
I do. And I think you can see it happening in China. So China's very interesting because right now what's happening in China is that the big platforms, bear in mind China is really a walled garden now because of what happened geopolitically, but they've got very powerful platforms, amazing technology, and they mirror, they've got their version of WhatsApp, they've got their version of Facebook, they've got their version of Amazon. And if you look at what's happening in China, those platforms are offering solutions to marketers direct, and the marketers are taking them up on it. And what that means is that the agency groups are being disintermediated; they're being cut out of the process. And the reason that China is going that way is because creativity in marketing has always been behind the curve in China, so it's not as developed as in other countries, and therefore the proof hasn't had time to land. So marketers are thinking, well, if I can deal directly with the platform, there's an AI generated ad that's kind of okay. They have the data on my customers, or I give them the data on my customers. Everything's good. So what I think the danger of that, though, is that ultimately it's a reduction in effectiveness, because we know that different creative, entertaining, surprising stories are what really count. And if that were to happen across the rest of the world, and I do think it's a danger, then creativity really will be under threat then.
And I think specifically because of Gen AI, that leads to sort of standardization of creativity. It sort of, on one hand, it levels, the playing field, right? Big players, small players, and now they can compete, right? But on the other hand, it's just another version of standardization in industry, right? Just like Fordization, McDonaldization, Disneyization, now we have this AIization, right? The sea of sameness is something that is kind of on horizon. And I am personally pretty worried about that. That every single brand, big, small, now can have beautifully generated images, right? But they are all the same image. In fact, they're just all the same stuff. And
I do think it comes back though to. I believe this. I hope it's true that ultimately what cuts through are human stories, and AI. See, a creative in an agency is sitting there and they've got a life experience, they've got lived experience. And that allows them to touch a human story, to create a human story. And AI can pretend, already does pretend, to have that, but doesn't have that. And so I think that differentiation hopefully will mean that genuine human creativity has a great future.
So the very nature of humanity will save
It's
humanity.
actually really deep.
Simple.
It's deep.
Pretty simple, in fact.
Yeah.
Well, as we were talking about the changes, how do those changes apply to the evolution of Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity? How has it changed over the years? Where is it going now?
It's obviously changed massively. So the people who attend have changed. So it used to be agency groups, and now it's media, marketing people, platforms, everybody. It's also changed in terms of what we're honouring at Cannes with the Lions. So if you go back in time, you're way too young to remember this, but we used to have it was about campaigns. So it was like, what's the best film ad? What's the best print ad? What's the best outdoor ad? But many of our newer categories now are about, well, we've got business transformation, for instance. We've got design, we've got experience, we've got many other different ways to kind of highlight creativity. And I think that's probably the big change, because people are coming to look at how can creativity affect my business systemically, not just in the marketing, not just in campaigns, but actually much deeper than that. And that's why the Titanium Lion is so important. We've got the SDG Lion, which is about changing people's minds and their hearts about issues. So I think the breadth of what we do at Cannes Lions is a reflection of how creativity now is driving right across all businesses and organizations.
That's great. I have one more question. This is the last question, and that's the question I ask everybody. I like this question. It's very simple, but it's. I hope it will make you think about something new. If you had a superpower of removing from our daily lives one technology that is already quite common, right? Whatever technology is, which technology would you pick to erase?
It's a really great question. And you can't say the smartphone because, well, I can't say the smartphone because you can't like, how are we going to go back from the smartphone? But I think I would remove maps from the smartphone. And that sounds strange because using Google Maps makes life so much easier. But actually, that's what I'm saying is I'm old enough to remember if you wanted to drive from Warsaw to Berlin, you had to have a map and you had to think about the route and you had to follow it with your finger. And that made your brain work harder. So I think it's a little thing we could remove that's not going to change the world, but just makes us use our brain a bit more because, we don't have to use it as much, do we?
Brilliant answer. Very unexpected. Thank you very much. I have no more questions. Thank you very much for watching and listening. And I hope you have a very pleasant stay in Warsaw. I hope the weather gets better tomorrow, or
Thank
maybe
you so much.
even just in a second. Thank you.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.